Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the REDX podcast. I'm your host today. My name is Haley Johnson. We have Josh Anderson from Nashville with us. Hey, Josh.
Hey, how are you?
So good. So good. So glad that you're here today. For everybody that's watching, I just want to make sure everybody, if you're chiming in, that's great. Tell us where you're from. Tell us where you're watching from. This is a participatory event. So if you're watching live, please ask your questions. That's something that is a benefit of watching live is you get Josh for the next half hour to ask questions and so let's get started here. For anyone also, I just want to say, if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, all that fun stuff. And we'll get this going. Great. So Josh, welcome. Can you tell us, for people that don't know who you are, just give us a little bit of an introduction, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the opportunity. So Josh Anderson, I am originally from Nashville, Tennessee, and I've been a real estate agent for about 16 years. Got in the business in April of 2006. So I saw about a year to a year and a half of good market, and then it just went kind of downhill from there after the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
My business actually grew through all that. 2020, we did about 135 million in volume, which was about 4 million in gross commissions. And we helped about 266 people. So, and that was not all me. We have a team in the background helping. So we've got a couple of buyer's agents and showing agents and ISAs and a full administrative staff. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about how Nashville's doing right now. I'm sure, like the rest of the country, it's been a little crazy, but tell us about your market, and what's going on there.
Yeah. So it's always interesting because I talk to agents all over the country and everybody seems to say the same thing, which their market's on fire. There's no inventory. Things are selling for 6 figures over. And it's very similar in Nashville. We've got, I don't know that it's that we don't have any inventory. I think that it's just that things are selling so quickly. And our market back in 2008, 9, 10, the short sale market really didn't hit us, or the REOs or foreclosures. We were pretty insulated because our market didn't really go up dramatically in value, and it never really dropped. So like 8% of our market was short sales and REOs and foreclosures. And it'll be interesting the next time around because our market in the last 2 years, I think everybody. So what happened in Nashville was we had a tornado in March of 2020, and then the following week we had COVID. And and it was one of those things that was kind of like, when COVID first happened, I mean, I was cutting every expense I could cut because I was just like, this is going to be horrible.
Yeah.
And then it ended up being our greatest year since we started. So it was really challenging in 2021 to see how much it got turned up, as far as people, I think, realized they could live anywhere they want, and they were able to work from home or just go into the office one day a week. And so we had this huge, massive influx of people moving, mostly concentrated like in Chicago, LA, Orange County, and then parts of New York and Connecticut and New Jersey. And there's other places as well, but that's where we saw most people coming from. And if I had to pick one city, it was probably Chicago, and several reasons for that. But, our market was just, it's been on fire since, and we figured it out since then. But it's been a challenge when you've got buyer clients that, property gets listed for $400,000 like we did last week, and it gets 200 showings and it goes, $80,000 or $90,000 over asking price. And it's not even it's hard because we've got people, we've had to tell our clients that are approved up to $400,000, like, you need to be looking at 350 houses, not $400,000 houses. So it's one of those deals that I think a knowledgeable agent in the market that understands and really is studying what the market's doing is really important for a lot of people.
Yeah, so tell
So,
me about that. Like, did you have to switch things up how you did things? Did you like talk to me? Because I know
yeah,
when 2020 hit for us, same thing. I was like canceling memberships. I had no idea what was going to happen. And then, I
yeah.
mean, the market really hasn't slowed down since, right? It's been about 2 years, almost 2 years since that happened. So tell me a little bit how your team adapted, stuff like that.
Yeah, so like every October, we do our focus day, which is kind of our annual planning for the year, for the
Mhm.
upcoming year. And so we had like all of our marketing and advertising and branding and giveaways and client events and all this stuff planned out. And March hit, and so we had the tornado, and the tornado was terrible, but it gave us a great reason to get out into the community and help
Yeah.
neighbors and friends and people. And we have a nonprofit that's attached to our brand, and so we were able to do a lot with that, which was cool. But then COVID happened, and our first event was supposed to be in March, so
Mhm.
we obviously scrapped that, and so we typically do 4 to 6 events a year, and so we really
Mhm.
got rid of all of our client events and went straight to giveaways, and we kind of shifted really quickly to doing that. And what we realized was we got the same interaction with our online community and our VIP partners and VIP clients, without having to organize these big events that we were doing that, some of them might be weather dependent. And so,
Yeah.
so for like Mother's Day 2020, we did a Dyson Supersonic hair dryer giveaway, which if you don't know what
Oh.
that is, it's a thing. Yeah.
Oh.
Um, I didn't know that hair dryers could be $500 either, but
Yeah, it's
there you go.
amazing though.
We got so much interaction on a giveaway like that. It was unbelievable. And then for Father's Day, we did a big green egg, and we did a Traeger last year. We've done a solo stove. We've done just, some of them are bigger items, Peloton. And so we've done some bigger things, but we've also just done small things like during 2020, we did a lot that was like, these restaurants, these clients of ours that owned restaurants and coffee shops were getting hammered because they
Yeah.
couldn't be open. So we were buying tons of gift cards and things that we could do as giveaways so we could go help support the people we know that own restaurants in town that are local restaurants.
Oh, I love that.
So they were $25 and $50 gift cards to the pizza place, or this or that. So it was just being purposeful, intentional about, all right, well, we can't really do our client events. It sucks, but it is what it is. And being able to do something in place of that kept us top of mind, and we, were able to help other people in the community at the same time.
Cool. So are these like
Yeah.
these giveaways, do you do them like through social media, or do you get people on like a Zoom call, or how do you do that?
Yeah. So a lot of them are different. Um, Sometimes we do call-ins. Sometimes we just do a survey, like a Google survey or a Survey Monkey, to where they just input all their information and we pick a winner. And sometimes it's for some of the smaller ones, it's like, doing a pizza giveaway for, Pi Day, March 14th. Um,
Mhm.
and so, yeah, it's a little play on 314. But it's doing stuff like and those were just like tag a friend that loves pizza and what's your favorite pizza joint, and so just getting interaction on Instagram or something like that. So and we're still doing a lot of that, and what we found was it's a lot easier to organize, and it was a lot less expensive, and it was creating leads, and it was creating good conversations. I think a lot of times realtors have a really hard time. They spend such a big amount of time with their clients, um, getting them through the consultation, and then sending them properties, showing them properties, and then they finally go under contract, and it's a 30 or 45-day close period, and then they go to close, and they might talk to them once or twice after closing, and then it's like the weird period. They don't know what to say, or it's been so long,
Yeah.
like how do I reconnect with them? And these giveaways made it really easy for us to stay in touch and
Mm.
communicate with our clients. Yeah.
Cool. So, and I'm curious for people that are solo agents, right? That maybe don't have all the money to give all of these sorts of giveaways, or like a new agent who maybe only has one deal or trying to get their first deal. Like, do you have any ideas for them as to how they can reach out to clients to try to get leads? I mean, because they don't have many clients or things like that.
Yeah. So one of the things I did when I started out, so I had $5,000 to my name when I started in April of 2006. And I said, I'm absolutely refuse. I'm either going to make it in the business or I'm not. I refuse to ask my parents for anything, like just being super hard headed. And just anyway, so I did a lot that was basically, free or very minimal cost. And it was things like, I would do Sunday fun days at my house and we'd just play like cornhole and hey, we'd barbecue and we'd do stuff. And it was for my core group of friends, I was like, hey, bring a friend that I don't know. Because that allowed me to build my database. Or when I did have my first closing, they were typically with my friends. And I was like, hey, I'm going to spend $250 and we're going to do a client event for you. And it was going to be 3 themes. It was either going to be a pizza party, it was going to be, Mexican, or it was going to be barbecue. And I'd send out real invitations and I would do an Evite. And the idea with the real invitations was I was getting my clients, they wanted to invite 25 of their friends. I would get their email address, their phone number, and their physical address. So then I could mail to them. I could call them. We called them to get RSVP, make sure they were coming, things like that. So that we literally did those. I did those for years for $250 for about 25 people with invitations and everything. So there's things like that. There was other stuff where I got really involved was I was looking, I couldn't afford to get into events like beer festivals and just things, right? Like, so I just got online and looked for all the events that were going on. And I would just email the chair or the executive director and say, hey, do you guys need volunteers? Just because it allowed me to get into the event for free and I was able to volunteer. So it was kind of a win-win on both sides. And then I was able to meet people. And I would get to the event early and just tell the executive director, hey, I'm originally from here. I haven't lived here in, 15 years and I don't really know anybody. Will you introduce me to like the other volunteers and just people? And then I would write handwritten notes to everybody that I met and try to grab coffee and do things. So it's really just a contact sport on getting in touch with people. And if you're passionate about something, like I was on the board for Special Olympics and just different things that you go, hey, I wasn't doing it to get business because I knew that they all had agents that they referred or that they knew people. It was really about building my database and getting to know enough people to where when I went places, I knew somebody every time I went somewhere.
I love that. Just getting involved with your community is what it sounds like. And sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and don't do it for the wrong reasons, but you can get involved anywhere.
Yeah.
There's like intramural sports or go to yoga, go to the gym. Like you can meet people anywhere. When somebody says, hey, I'm new to town, I don't know how to find business, you're not thinking or trying hard enough, in my opinion. I mean, there's so many places in 2022 to get involved online, and the online brings it offline in real life. And like, there's just so many ways to get super involved if you want to. You don't need a wingman. You don't need all this stuff. I think you can do it. You just got to get uncomfortable.
I like that. Get uncomfortable. And especially with when you were starting real estate, the social media and like the online presence isn't nearly as what it is today, right? You can get online, search anywhere on Facebook for any group, for any interest or location or anything, and find a group of people just to like start meeting people in your area and finding people with similar interests and things like that. So,
or if you've got a place that if you're in a city where people are moving into or they're moving out of, you can start a Facebook group there are Facebook groups in Tennessee and in Nashville that are literally Californians moving to Tennessee. And it's a huge resource for people. Chicagoans, moving to Nashville because there's a ton of them. And they go, hey, I've lived in Naperville, Illinois for the last 32 years. I want to know what community in Middle Tennessee is similar to, Naperville and Chicago. And so you can create that. If it's not there, create it.
I like that. So that's how you built your business. You went around and met people and built built your database. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'll tell you exactly what I did in my first year.
Okay.
So I had not lived in Nashville for 15 plus years. So I left Nashville when I was in third grade. So like nobody was still here. My dad's from here. And so they knew some people, but they were all like in their 50s and 60s, and they weren't going to use 26-year-old Josh because they knew my dad. But what I did was I grabbed that list, and then I got involved in these different things. So my first CRM was an Excel sheet, name, phone number, email address, and notes. And I would write everybody a handwritten note. 3 days later, I would call them to make sure they got my handwritten note. And it had a business card in there. And I called them and talked to them about going to grab coffee. And then I verified that I had the correct contact information. And then I followed it up with an email. And so that was like my lead generation every day for the first 3 years I was in the business. So lots of handwritten notes, a lot of kind of guerrilla marketing. One of my first clients came from Craigslist. It's just one of those deals. Like you look at Craigslist now and you're like, good Lord, it's such a defunct website, but it worked. I mean, I got clients off of it.
Yeah.
I just put free ads on Craigslist. So get creative. I did so much in my first year. I was probably working 100-hour weeks, and I was willing to, even though I didn't know everything, I was doing whatever it took. I was the first person to the office, the last person to leave every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did Sunday fun. Other things I did in my first year, I did Sunday fun days, like literally every Sunday. I was also not married and didn't have kids, so that was easier. I probably did 75 open houses my first year. None of those were my listings. I didn't know what I was doing. Nobody taught me how to do them. And in this market, maybe, we did an open house this past Sunday, which had 100 people at it. But, it was one of those deals, like most of our listings aren't on the market long enough to do an open house right now. I mean, you really don't need one. So it might not matter. That might not be relevant in the current market, but there's things that you can do. You can go farm an area. You can go door knock. You can go, if you live in a complex, an apartment complex, go do a home buyer seminar and invite everybody in your apartment complex. I mean, there's literally a gazillion things you can do.
Yeah, just get creative and just get out there. Put yourself out there.
And don't try to call people trying to just get business. Like nobody's sitting by the phone waiting for Josh or Haley to call them. It's more about getting somebody on the phone to build a relationship, build rapport, get into conversation with them, ask them how you can help them in their business. And over time, you become the trusted person.
Okay, so this is more of like the long game, right? You're not calling to try. It's like, I mean, if you're calling expired listings, you're calling for business, right? So this is more of just calling, trying to build a database for long-term success is what I'm hearing, right?
Yeah, and I always play the long game because I'm better at follow-up than anybody else. Like I literally, one of the first things somebody told me when I got in the business was follow up until they buy or die. And I was like, huh? And I literally, people were like, no, like 8 years later, I list properties of people that I've just left voicemail after voicemail after voicemail. They got all of them. They just didn't call me back because they didn't feel the need to, because the timing wasn't right.
Right.
And speaking of expireds, I built my business on expireds. And I never, and this might not be the right thing to say to you, I never called brand new expireds. I called 2-week-old or older expireds, and I literally stayed in touch with them and became friends with them over the phone, and we'd never even met. And so I never really wanted to compete with the brand, like 17 agents calling at 7:30 in the morning. And so the ones that were 30 days old or older, or the ones that were 90 days old, I wanted to go back to those and say, hey, look, I'm about to list a property in your neighborhood. And I just am trying to get like market data as far as like, why did your home, there's like 4 homes in the last year that haven't sold. Why do you think that is? Or I would call them and just say, look, I know historically over the last 90 days, you've probably gotten a lot of phone calls. I didn't want to bother you, but I just want to check in and see if you know anything. Here's my contact information. Can I be a resource for you?
That's cool, because I feel like most people right now, especially that buy leads, expired leads, for sale by owner leads, things like that, they're in it to hurry up and get business. But I like your approach because it's more about the people, right? And instead of trying to make a quick listing here and there or something like that, you're really invested in the relationship and following up, right? Because I mean, how many agents don't follow up ever, right? So
Ever. Like, I'm amazed how many agents buy leads, pay for them, and then they're too busy or they're scared to pick up the phone and call them after the person's already raised their hand that they've gone to a website. It's the same with expireds or for sale by owners. Like, you could call expireds, I mean, for sale by owners right now and say, I don't know what the NAR statistic is, but like 70% of for sale by owners didn't have an enjoyable experience by doing it themselves and wouldn't do it again. Now, again, this market, it might be a little bit different, but you could call and go so many different directions with a for sale by owner as far as, hey, can I come by and stop by your property? I've got a list of off-market properties that aren't on all the big sites. Can I add yours to my list? And by the way, can I come take video or some pictures so I have them? I mean, there's a lot of different angles you can work, but I think people don't have good experience necessarily with expireds because they don't know the objection handlers, they don't know the scripts, and they think, well, this isn't working. Well, this data is crap. No, the data isn't crap. Your scripts are. I mean, that's. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but that's the truth.
No, like, I love it.
I mean, people aren't trying hard enough. They call one time and think that the person's supposed to say yes to them. You called them out of the blue. Like, you got to do something in the first 10 seconds that appeals to them, makes them laugh. You got to either be witty or you got to say something different. You can't stumble over your words, and you got to build rapport with them.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, especially right now in our day and age. People don't want to talk to salespeople on the phone just because they're a salesperson, and you can like feel that that's all they're wanting from you is a deal, right? And so if you go into it very genuine, and it doesn't matter who you're calling, whether it's somebody new, somebody you already know, whatever, like, and you're coming at it with, hey, so do you want to buy or sell right now? Like, we could do it. It's just like, okay, great. Like, Haley's calling me again, wanting to sell my house. Okay. But if you call them like, hey, how's it going? How's your kid? How's like life? Tell me, how's it going? And that's your whole objective of the call. Eventually, right down the line, they'll remember you just as a friend, just as a person that they know that happens to do real estate. And they'll be like, oh yeah, I know Josh. He's great. Like, we should list with him. Right.
Yeah. And I probably don't get some deals because maybe I'm not aggressive enough, but at the end of the day, like, I remember not getting a couple of deals early on in my career. And the one thing I told myself is they might not use me, but it's never again going to be because they didn't know I was a real estate agent. That's my fault for a lack of branding or marketing or really telling people what I do and how I do it and what my livelihood is. But I'm not going to appeal to everybody, and maybe I'm not aggressive enough for some people, but the people I do work with come back to me all the time. That's why 75 to 80% of our business is past client business, or we did 66 closed transactions as a team last year just from agent referrals from around the country. And that's because agents call me and go, hey, I'm really struggling getting from 10 million to $20 million. Like, can you tell me what you did? And I can tell them, and I give them 20 or 30 minutes of my time to help them or give them resources or whatever it is, because we've all been there.
Yeah, you just have like loyal customers that keep coming back to you. I think there's so many different ways to do real estate and strategies and get leads and things like that. Yeah. Like, some people can get on the phone and prospect, and that's what they do. They just call and try to find hot leads that are ready to sell, and that's all they do. And that's great because they're really aggressive, and that works for them. Yeah. But I think there are different types of personalities, there are different types of people, different types of agents, where I think something like this would appeal to somebody that doesn't want to get on the phone and grind all day, every day, right? Like, they want to build something that will last, and they get to work with people that they like, that they have relationships with, and that come to them because
Yeah.
they've built a repeat and referral business. So I
Yeah.
think, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I don't want to make any mistake. I'm on the phone every day for 3 hours every single day. But
Yeah.
most of my business now is me calling our past client database and checking in with them. It's
Right.
there's no like hard sell. It's, hey, Haley, it's Josh Anderson over at the Anderson Group. We sold you 123 Main Street about 3 years ago now. And I just wanted to check in, see how the house is doing, see if you need anything, see if you had any questions about the real estate market. If you ever need any vendors or contractors or anything like that, we have a whole list. Just let me know.
Yeah, they're not cold calls. They're very
Right.
warm. You know them, they know you, and it's just calling to like check in. And one, like, it keeps you top of mind. So they're always like, "Oh yeah, Josh," like if their friends ever ask like, "Do you know an agent or whatever?" Because I think a lot of people, they do business with somebody and never call them again. And so whoever is calling them and whoever is following up is going to get their next deal or their friends' deals or something like that. And so, yeah, I like that. I like that it's not so cold, and it's really just like kind of like talking to your friends and checking in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And again, we probably don't get some business, and we also get business that we maybe, and that's where I think picking up the phone, and when I say pick up the phone, I mean physically pick up the phone and call them,
Yeah.
and also text them and leave them voicemails, even if they don't call you back, and go
Mhm.
have lunch or coffee with them occasionally, if that's something that they raise their hand for. And they also see, I'm amazed. If you go on our Instagram page, for example, or my own personal Instagram, I'm amazed how many people don't comment on my stuff. And when I see them in real life, they're like, dude, you're crushing it on Instagram, well, for
Yeah.
whatever. And they like know everything that I'm doing on Instagram. I'm like, wow, I didn't know everybody was actually paying attention to that, which is cool because they're like, I don't have to restart a conversation. They're like, hey man, I saw that you did 352 workouts in 2021. That's awesome. Or hey, I saw that bought a 1972 Blazer and it's on Instagram and blah, whatever. But it
Mhm.
just creates a really easy conversation where we can pick up really easily that we
Yeah.
didn't necessarily, and some of those people, it's like, I haven't actually talked to some of my clients in 2 or 3 years. I mean, one of my best friends, I only talk to him like once a month, but it's because we send text messages and Instagram reels back and forth to each other constantly.
Totally.
And then we just laugh back and forth, and then that's it. Like,
Yeah.
that's the relationship. It's cool.
Yeah, I
And
think
if he
that's
needs
what's so
something, he'll
cool.
call me and be like, hey man, I saw you're connected with so and so on LinkedIn. Can you connect me with him? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's what's
So
so cool about social media these days is it's so much easier to stay top of mind. And when you're showing up constantly on somebody's feed, like they're gonna remember you. They're gonna remember that you're an agent. Just because like some people will sprinkle in agent content or they have a whole agent Instagram, something like that. That you're just always just top of mind. That's I think that's a theme that
yeah,
I'm getting out of here is just like make sure that you're checking in, but also that you're just around whenever they need you, that so that
yeah,
they see you.
yeah. And so like our team Instagram page, for example, is it's really more about community, and
Mhm.
we really don't post a whole lot of like, hey, we just listed 123 Main Street. And if somebody wants to see that much, they're going to go to Zillow or Redfin, somewhere like that,
That's true.
or your local MLS. Like we're highlighting restaurants and businesses and our favorite houses in Nashville and different styles of houses in Nashville, but we're not actually, or like, hey, this is one of the houses we sold recently. Look at the backyard entertainment space, or look at the view. We're highlighting an aspect of the house. We're not highlighting, hey, this is 123 Main Street. It's $1 million. Come by. Like, you
Yeah.
would never notice that on our Instagram page. And the same way with my business or my personal page is there are definitely real estate things on there, but it's also like my lifestyle. It's me going and taking my top 15 guy clients to a bourbon making class, or it's just different things that I feel like I've talked about alcohol like 5 times on here. I really don't drink very often. But it's just one of those things, like it's showing who we are in real life. And people want to know that you're not a robot.
Mhm.
and that you're
Totally.
not just about selling houses. People don't necessarily want to be sold.
I like that.
So,
So I'm curious so with your lead follow-up, do you have some sort of routine that you follow, or like do you put everything in a CRM and it tells you who to call, or what's kind of your routine there?
yeah. So we've got like a 36 touch
Okay.
program that it touches throughout the year past clients, and obviously people can unsubscribe from some of that, but people are getting at least 4 phone calls a year from either myself or someone on my team that serviced them or worked with them. They're getting 12 postcards, they're getting 12 newsletters, so that's 24, that's 28 right there. And then we've got 4 client events, that's 32. And then they're getting social media and giveaways and some other things here and there. That was like a really quick digested version of our 36 touch. But other than that, it's really like, we have a nonprofit, so we're trying to do good and help people. So it's really for friends and friends of friends and clients and people like that. And I would say it's kind of like a local version of it's a local version of Habitat for Humanity. So we're like going in and fixing people's houses and things like that. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's
And
pretty
so,
cool.
and we also do small cup of sugar type projects where we're going into like Hillsborough West End neighborhood is where my office building is. So we go in and we might plant 500 trees, or we might go fix something up, because this is where we live and where we work. And we want to know the neighbors, and we ultimately want them to be clients, but we also want to make our neighborhood look amazing. And it helps everybody from property values and that type of thing.
I love that. That's awesome. I think having some sort of system like is so much better than just being then leads slip through the cracks. People slip through the cracks if you don't have some sort of system or you're constantly following up. So I love that. I think agents need to do that more. I think you miss out on so much business by doing a deal and then being done. And if you do what you're saying, if you're calling them, you're showing up on social media, you're sending postcards, newsletters, things like that, then there's no doubt that they'll remember who you are and know that you bring value to people. I mean, I would want to share that with my family and friends, right? So that person who's constantly who didn't just forget about me because then I paid their commission and they were done, right?
Nobody just wants to be a sale. Like,
yeah,
that's the deal. And I'm not saying you have to be friends with all of your clients, but just stay in front of them. Like they they want you to answer the phone or call them back within a reasonable amount of time. They want you to be a resource for them. They just, I don't know. I mean, I'm not necessarily friends with the majority of our clients, but I do stay in touch with them. And they do know that even if I didn't help them with their particular transaction, they've gotten a personal phone call from the owner of the company.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, well, we're running out of time here, but I do want to give you a little bit of a last word type thing before we sign off. Can you tell us, tell the people that are watching, just like final thoughts? I think this has been a great podcast, just about making sure you're building your database and also engaging with them and making sure that you're top of mind, right? You're not everybody's best friend, but at least you are staying in contact and making sure that they know who you are. So yeah, final thoughts, and then we'll sign off.
Yeah. So final thoughts. It's always the same for me. I think we all try to overthink this. We're all looking for like a silver bullet or some shiny new object. At the end of the day, it's a contact sport. And at the end of the day, just get back to the basics. Go love on your database. Go do the right thing. Under promise and over deliver. Like, just get back to the basics. Like, go love on people. Just check in with them and ask them how they're doing. What do they need help with? Because during COVID, I think there's a lot of people that you could say, hey, how's it going? And they're like, oh, fine. But like, is it really? Because there's a lot of people that struggled during COVID, and there's a lot of people that still are struggling. And I don't know that that's going to stop anytime soon, but just get back to the basics and go treat your clients and your database how you would want to be treated.
I love it. Don't overcomplicate it. We did have a question chime in, so we'll just answer this question really quick.
Yeah.
Tom asked, do you stay in touch with sellers that are not local but selling like one investment property they have in your market?
Yes, 100%. And the reason for that is a lot of people say, oh, that's kind of, why would I do that? I don't know. They probably know somebody in Nashville. They know somebody that's headed to Nashville. I can't tell you how many people call me or Facebook message me and say, hey, I'm coming to Nashville for a weekend. Can you give me a list of things to do? So that happens so much that I created a series of blogs on my website that are like, hey, if you're in town for 48 hours, here's the itinerary of what to do. 72 hours, itinerary of what to do. Girls' weekend, here's what to do. Rooftop happy hours, here's what to do. Like everything.
I love that.
And some of them are evergreen, but yes, I stay in touch with all of our past clients because I think it's important. Because if you have 100 clients and you're not talking to 50 of them, how many deals a year are you leaving on the table?
I like that.
Awesome. Maybe not 50%, but what if it's 20 or 25%?
Yeah. Missed opportunities.
Yeah.
I like that. Awesome. Well, thanks, Tom, for your question. Thanks, Josh, so much for coming for this podcast. I think this has been awesome. Little 35-minute here talking about database and stuff. I've learned a lot. I hope our listeners have too, especially those that will listen to this afterwards as well. Thank you so much, Josh. We'll have to have you back on to talk about some more of this stuff. This has been awesome.
Yeah, would love to.
Where can people find you if they want to reach out or anything?
If you want to reach out, you guys can go to our website, joshandersonrealestate.com, or you can go onto our Instagram pages. If you just go to tag Nashville, TAG Nashville.
Perfect.
Mine is the real Josh Anderson. There's a whole story behind it, but I won't bore you with it.
Awesome. Great. Well, and if you're watching live, thank you so much for tuning in and watching with us. For those that are listening afterwards, thanks for tuning in always to the podcast. We have so many people that listen to these on all your respective podcast players and things like that. So thank you. We will be right back here, same time, same place, next Thursday. And I think that's a wrap. We'll see you guys next time.